I want you guys to take a look at this map. This is a map of all the NBA players, the active NBA players, and where they came from, where their home country was in 1992. These players would account for 5% of the NBA population in 1992, where there was 21 total foreign-born NBA players out of 420. The 1992 Olympic Games, the Dream Team had a schedule that featured 11 different NBA players over the span of 8 games. First playing Angola with a 116-48 win. Croatia was next with 5 NBA players, most notably Dražen Petrovic and Toni Kukoc, where they won 103-70. Germany was up next with 2 NBA players, which Detlef Schrempf would be the most known one. Brazil featured 1 NBA player as they win 127-83. Then Spain 122-81, which had 0 NBA players. Puerto Rico 115-77, featured 1 NBA player. Lithuania was up next, 127-76, with 2 NBA players, most notably Arvydas Sabonis. Lastly, you play Croatia again, the team they played in their second game, where they win 117-85. But I want you guys to take a look into just what the Dream Team and what basketball has done and how it has grown. This is what the map looked like in 2020. Look how much more colorful it is. And this is just 2020. In 2024, there's 125 foreign-born NBA players. That is 23% of the NBA being from a different country. Just in this Olympics, if you take a look, you would see that Team USA, they played 6 games. Let's include their 6 games of the group stage and then the quarters, the semis, and the finals. In their first game, they played Serbia, and they win 110-84. But there were 7 NBA players on that team, including Nikola Jokic and Bogdan Bogdanovic. South Sudan had 4 NBA players: Wenyen Gabriel, JT Thor, Mariel Shayok, and Carly Jones. Those 2 are in the G League, but still 4 NBA players nonetheless, and they win 103-86. Puerto Rico only had 3 NBA players, with Jose Alvarado being their star guy. America handled them pretty easily, 104-83. Now, in the quarterfinal, they play Brazil, who has 7 NBA players, including Raul Neto, Marcelo Huertas, and Cristiano Felicio, all old NBA vets. You take a look at Serbia again, we play the 7 NBA players again. And then France comes out with a whopping 8 NBA players, including Victor Wembanyama, Nick Batum, Rudy Gobert, Evan Fournier, among other NBA players. Other teams that were not noted that we did not play were Germany, who had 5 with Dennis Schroeder, Franz and Mo Wagner, Daniel Theis, and Isaac Bonga. And then Spain, they had 7 NBA players. Santi Aldama and Rudy Fernandez would be the 2 names that you may recognize. Canada has the most out of any other team not in America, with 11, having Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, RJ Barrett, Lou Dort, Jamal Murray, and Andrew Nembhard, just to name a few. Australia, with 10 NBA players, as Dyson Daniels, Patty Mills, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, among other players. And then Greece has 4, obviously, with Giannis and his brothers being the most notable players out of that group. So in total, Team USA played 29 different NBA players this year, compared to the 11 that the Dream Team ended up playing. And that makes a big difference. And you may say, well, Team USA has the best players, though, right? So does it really matter if how many NBA players these guys have if we have all the All-Stars? Well, I wouldn't really look at it like that. The caliber of player that is coming from other countries has really, really changed. Since 2018, 2019, I believe, there have been at least 4 international players that have made an All-NBA team. In 2019, Giannis and Jokic are first team, Embiid is second team, Rudy is third team. In 2020, Giannis is first and Luka is first team, Pascal and Jokic are second team. Rudy Gobert and Ben Simmons make third team. Giannis, Jokic, Luka make first team in 2021, Embiid second, Rudy third team. 2022, We have Giannis, Jokic, and Luka in the first team. You had Embiid and Siakam, who also made an All-NBA team. 2023, you have Giannis, Shea, Embiid, and Luka all making the first team, with Jokic also making the second team. And then in 2024, you had Luka, Giannis, Shea, and Jokic again, making up 4 out of the 5 first-team All-NBA spots. That shows you how talented these players are, but also that they're getting picked for awards over these other players, and it's not because of a reason that has to do with growing the game. These players are deserving of these metrics, of these awards. If we take a look at MVP voting from 2019 as well, the first year, 2019, Giannis wins MVP. Then you have 2020, Giannis wins MVP again. He goes back to back. Jokic wins 2021 MVP with Embiid coming second. And then 2022, you have Jokic winning MVP, Embiid second, and Giannis third, a top 3 of all international players. In 2023, you have the similar thing in a different order. You have Embiid, then Jokic, and then Giannis. Embiid winning in 2023. This past year in 2024, you have Jokic, Shea, and Luka. So for the past 3 years, we have been looking at a top 3 that consists of all foreign-born players for MVP voting. The biggest knock on foreign-born players most of the time is that they're not defensively oriented. I have my opinions on Rudy Gobert, but Gobert has definitely shown in the past, once before, he got caught in the switching game, and, he's not really a great perimeter defender, but he was winning Defensive Player of the Year, and we can't take that away from him. In 2019, Gobert wins Defensive Player of the Year, and Giannis comes second. So you have 2 out of the 3 guys were foreign-born players that are winning Defensive Player of the Year. In 2020, you get Giannis and winning it, and Gobert coming in third. In 2021, you have Gobert winning it, Ben Simmons coming second, and Ben Simmons is Australian. 2022, you have Gobert in third. Then this past year, you have Gobert and Wemby, who came 1 and 2. So there's definitely a mold of European guys where you have these really tall players. You have a guy like Wemby, but to a lesser extent, like guys like Lauri Markkanen are similar. The Wagners that both play for Orlando, they're very similar, and they're versatile. They can space the floor mainly because the European game is not predicated on athleticism. They're not really looking to be high flyers. You don't find a lot of high flyers on European teams, but a lot of these guys, their fundamentals, their basketball IQ are extremely, extremely high. So they make the right read, make other players around them better because they can space the floor. So now you give another guy a lot more room to work. It's hard to speed these guys up. They play with great pace. You could look at a guy like Luka or a guy like Jokic where, they play at their own pace. They work within the parameters of their lack of athleticism because their game isn't predicated on being athletic like we value at a young age, where, the most athletic kids are the kids that get in the game. They don't really necessarily need that over there. I think Luka is almost the perfect blend of a heliocentric, which basically just means like centering around one player, offense, where the Mavs play literally through Luka. Everything is through him. But he is a team player. Watch him play. He makes all the right reads. He throws all the right passes. He's such a great passer. And Jokic is very similar, where they can have the ball all the time and still be team players. Whereas a lot of times you see with Americans, like, obviously Jordan is praised for it, Kobe is praised for it, but those guys, they weren't necessarily team guys. Like, you look at a guy like LeBron automatically elevates the people around him because of his passing ability. And these are almost like versions of LeBron without athleticism. And you may say that's crazy to say, but look at a guy like Luka. Luka is probably the closest thing passing-wise to LeBron that we've seen in a long time. But then he also has the scoring and the pace. They just don't have the athleticism. That really doesn't take anything away from them because you also have guys like Giannis who do use their physical nature to impose their will on teams, just like Embiid can do that as well and dominate games that way. The way their teams play in international play, and look at how great these players work together. We cannot throw out bad teams or teams that aren't our best and just win. We saw that in the 2023 FIBA games where we didn't even medal, and like no offense to the guys that were on that team, but not all of them are guys that you should be sending to represent our country. Guys like Austin Reeves, Mikal Bridges, like those are good players. Cam Johnson, those are good players. Don't get me wrong, those are good players. But those aren't the guys that we need to be sending, because otherwise these teams will embarrass us. Like, they'll show that they are NBA players. Just because an NBA player that you see in the league doesn't do anything or averages 2 points, maybe only gets 5 to 10 minutes a game, you put them on their own team in their own country, they're going to show you why they're an NBA player. Take Gershon Yabusele this year, for instance. Yabusele averages 2-3 points in his career. He played for the Celtics for a little bit, and over the past 3 years overseas, he's been shooting 40% from 3. Yabusele showed out against us. I also saw that AI video where he dunked on Bron. I don't know if that was real or not, but Yabusele was hooping the entire Olympics. You see guys like that, they may not be the star on a team, they're not fitting a role with an NBA team, but they're still NBA caliber players. Like, even like a guy like Dennis Schroeder Dennis Schroeder looks like Chris Paul when he goes and plays for Germany, because he has the ball in his hand all the time, and now you get to see he's making step backs. My favorite, riser in games is definitely Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier makes the wildest shots. He somehow turns into a guy who's pump faking, shooting step backs. Like, those guys can play, and they're not scared of us anymore. In the past, you look at 1992, like, I would be in awe. Those players were probably in awe, like, of Michael Jordan, of all these NBA players. These guys, they play against these NBA players all the time. They probably feel like they're better than some of them. Some of the guys in the league that are getting called up, that are getting contracts, they probably feel like they're better. Wemby, for instance, like, how amazing of a talent is Wemby? Do you think Wemby looks at these teams and says, like, oh, I can't compete with them? Absolutely not. You saw the hezzy he put on Joel Embiid. Like, Wemby had a great last game. He didn't have a great Olympics, but he had a great last game. And I think that is very important in thinking, like, these guys are ready to compete. Now, for Team USA, that means that we have to maneuver differently. I think what I would want to say is that we need to figure out who is going to be on that next Olympic roster, because these other guys are only going to get better. Wemby's only going to get better, right? And he's going to have a good team around him. They have a lot of young talent like Bilal Coulibaly. They have Rishashe and Alex Sarr, who both got drafted this year, both 1 and 2. So these teams are going to get better. These players aren't stopping. Like, they are young. These guys aren't just here to play around. Their progress system is probably a little better in terms of making a good basketball player, teaching someone fundamentals and IQ and not allowing them to rely on their athleticism solely makes a more complete player. That's how you get a player like Victor Wembanyama. That's how you get a player at that height that's like Luka, 6'7", 6'8" in their point guards. You have a guy like Shea. Shea is very similar, in my opinion, where he's a guard, and these new really tall wings and guards that can do everything, that's the way basketball is going. I use Luka as an example a lot because you can find video of him playing for Real Madrid, which is a EuroLeague team. You can find video where he's playing against Russell Westbrook at 16. Westbrook is in peak form. This is almost MVP Westbrook that we're talking about. And just 2-3 years later, he's in the NBA. He's thinking, I played against these guys. I've played against pros before. There's no shock, and we need more players like that. Like, that's why it was so promising to see a guy like Cooper Flagg perform the way he did in those videos against Team USA in the practices. Because when you saw him, you were like, wow, we have a guy that, like, that's promising. And these other countries, their guys are thinking the same thing, right? They let their players play a little, like, play in the FIBA games a little younger. They take these games really, really seriously. These teams they're getting better. I promise you, they're getting better. We, the U.S., are still producing very, very good players, but they are producing good players as well. Jokic is a bit older, but doesn't seem to be slowing down, and Jokic, even better, his game, it's a longevity thing. They don't need their athleticism as much. Maybe a guy like Giannis does, but, like, some of these guys, they don't need athleticism. They're not high flyers. They're not jumping out the gym. They're beating you with IQ. They're beating you with understanding of spacing, with understanding of concepts, with being able to think the game, being able to space the floor. And that's the way basketball is going. But this isn't a knock against Team USA. He made claims like, this team's not as good as the dream team. You know, these teams couldn't compare. Look at how the dream team was winning. Well, yeah, winning by 40 and 60 wasn't that hard when, you know, it's a time where there's barely any even all-stars from these other countries. Basically, all the all-stars come from America, or the all NBA players, they're all coming from America for the most part. But now that's not the case. Like, I understand, like, we have more, but they're not bad. They're still NBA players. You put an NBA player on their own team and you allow them to touch the ball, you're gonna find out just how good an NBA player is. Dennis Schroeder is literally that. Like, these players are showing. Bogdanovic, he basically looked like Jamal Murray with Jokic. So he gets 20 against us. These teams, it's not a knock against us. Like, we're playing a quality opponent. You know, we're no longer playing like those, like that Nigerian team that we played a couple Olympics ago, where like it was a crazy score, and like it was wild. Like, Carmelo Anthony is getting 37 points in like 15 minutes. Like, that's not happening anymore. We're not doing that anymore. We are not that much better than every other country anymore. And we have more depth, we have more talent, but these other players aren't scared of us. They can see us. Our game is visible to them. 30 years ago, you were going to watch an NBA game and you were in another country. That's probably almost unthinkable. You probably have to have the perfect circumstance. Probably have to be up at like 3 in the morning to watch a game. That's not the case anymore. You don't have to do that. They have Twitter, they have Instagram, they have TikTok, they have all these social media platforms. They can look these players up. They can watch their moves and mimic their moves the same way we can. And that's what happens with the globalization of sports. We don't take things away from baseball when they have a guy like Shohei Ohtani. Shohei is essentially like what I would say is like baseball's version of Wemby, where it's like this guy that's just ultra talented, like almost like it's hard to fathom how good this person is and can be. We don't take that away from them because Japan is competing in the World Baseball Classic with the USA. They produce MLB players. They produce baseball players. They're really good. Globalization of the game, that's what's going to happen. That's what happens when you have a guy like Magic, when you have Jordan with the Be Like Mike campaign. That's what happens. You get globalization of the game. People are going to get better. The other countries are going to get better. Our game is a global game now. It's one of the most widely played games in the world. Basketball is a popular sport. Kids are going to watch the same way we do. They're going to fall in love with players. Kobe was huge in China. Steph Curry is really big overseas as well. I mean, obviously, his game style is really entertaining, especially with the dazzling shooting that he has. And with that, if we're saying the NBA, you know, they have initiatives and they started a league in Africa. They have academies in Africa. They had an academy in Australia. Like, that's where Josh Giddey was part of that for a while. Like, other countries, they have leagues themselves. Euro League, the CBA, like NBL in Australia. And think about our players that have gone overseas instead of going to college to play. These other leagues are just nothing. Like, they are playing good players. And some of our NBA players go over there when, you know, they may not fit a role or fit, you know, a team and can't, you know, crack a roster or a starting lineup, and maybe they go to another country, but they're still quality NBA players. And if they played another NBA player, you know, they may not be LeBron or Steph or KD, but they're not bad. And if you put enough of those players and they believe that they can win, especially with the progression of the three-point shot. The three-point shot, literally, mathematically, like, it is the most demoralizing shot because no lead is safe and you could balloon a lead at any time. Just like Serbia did. They had a plan. Hit as many threes as we can. You saw how they were controlling that game. And once the three stopped falling, to be fair, America came back. But you see the formula. You see that these teams are ready to compete. I don't think that the rest of the world getting good at basketball should be held against this team on NBA Twitter and all these other spaces where you're comparing them to the Dream Team and how they dominated. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Let me know what you guys think. I kind of like this video. It's fun researching, you know, looking at, you know, the progression of these guys and seeing how good, like, you know, the world is becoming. And it's honestly really promising to see how good the world is becoming, because that just means more talent for us. Let me know what you guys think. If you have another vid idea, please let me know. Basketball is done, I guess, for a little bit, so I'll probably, as we get closer to the season, probably try to do like rankings or, you know, standings and stuff with the teams. So I'll probably do that for East and Western Conference. So let me know if there's any other type of videos that you guys want to see. And man, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.